While at lunch in the seminary dining room one day, our conversation got onto the topic of how people react to things that they were fans of, right? Movies, books, stars, etc. And when one book in particular came up that was popular at the time, had a lot of fans, I casually interjected while I was looking down, "Oh man, I hate fans of that book," only to look up and lock eyes with someone who was indeed a fan of that very book. It's still a clear memory for me, the horrified expression on his face, the way the atmosphere at the table changed, the sinking feeling of realizing that my thoughtless words had hurt someone I cared about. I did find him later and apologized, and we got along after that. The truth is, I didn't really hate him for liking that book. I actually liked the book myself. I just got annoyed with fans who got carried away about it. Still, that moment revealed something important to me about my own character. Sirach tells us, when a sieve is shaken, the husks appear. So do one's faults when one speaks. Jesus puts it this way: from the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. The point is, my words revealed that I needed some conversion. Turns out I was filling my heart with unnecessary complaining and criticism, filling my heart with impatience towards ordinary human tendencies. I had a habit of paying too much attention to my own ideas and not enough attention to how my actions affected those around me. There's a time and a place for saying things people don't like to hear, but my casual use of hatred over something so trivial and to his face was nowhere near that. We've all got faults like this, things that will take a few mistakes for us to notice and some real work to fix. And it helps in trying to fix that to know up front what doesn't work and to unpack what Jesus teaches us now. First of all, it does not work to simply resolve to yourself, "I won't talk like that again." I mean, you do need to make that resolution and decide to not say awful things, but that's not a lasting solution. The words we speak are not the source of the problem. It wasn't as simple as telling myself not to say, "I hate so-and-so." I had to actually work on not allowing that hatred into my heart. The words are a symptom of the problem, the fruit of a bad tree. You don't target the fruit or the symptoms, but the root, the virus itself. And this is what Jesus is getting at. From the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. If you want to stop saying stupid things, quit putting stupid things in your heart. If you want to stop saying wicked things, stop filling your heart with wicked things. And of course, we can't just focus on what not to do. We have to focus on what to do well, to fill our hearts with what is good. And along the way, we will have to accept that we will, in fact, make mistakes. Our hearts are already full of various kinds of wickedness. It's not something we can uproot in a single moment. When we speak, we are going to reveal faults and failings at least some of the time. And our words really are a test of character, a revelation of what's inside. Perhaps this is why public speaking is always listed near the top of the most common fears that people have. It's bad enough that I risk exposing my faults every time I talk to a few people. But to stand up in front of whole crowds and start talking, what if they all see the ugly mess that's inside? Fair enough. But hiding from the crowd, from revealing it, doesn't actually get rid of the fault and foulness inside. It just hides it. You will have to deal with it eventually. There's prudence in not putting ourselves in a position to mess up really badly before we're ready. But if we take that too far, we just run from life. Making mistakes in front of others is part of how we see our faults. It wasn't until I made that mistake and saw his expression that I could learn. Ultimately, if we want to say the right things, if I want to say the right things, I have to try to be the right kind of person. No one can possibly be on guard all the time. There is no outside systematic method to get the right results in our words, because that's not how life works. That's not how human beings work. From the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. So fill your heart well. Consider, did Jesus always have a script? Was he following a checklist of which miracles he'd do and when? When we read the Gospels, what do we see? Jesus laying out clever methods and following strict rules? No. We see him pray, and then we see him love in whatever form that takes in the moment. It's not that Jesus is the perfect actor, it's that he has the perfect heart, which is revealed in all he says and does. And don't get me wrong, scripts and methods and programs and rules are valuable and necessary tools, but they're not a replacement for a good heart. The right way to use those things is to shape our hearts like his. No disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. As cliche as it is to say from the pulpit, you should be like Jesus. If you want a Lenten resolution, make it that. Be like Jesus. Because being comes before acting. Yes, we need concrete things to do this Lent. Just make sure that they're actually aimed at shaping our hearts into good hearts, to becoming something, rather than just trying to cover up the bad heart. And Lent always calls our attention to those three sacred practices: almsgiving, prayer, and fasting. But those three things are all about one thing: putting God in our hearts. So give alms. Find the place that your heart most resists being generous. Is it with money? Is it time with certain kinds of people? Is it doing that task you're supposed to do but don't like? Is it avoiding speaking in front of people when you know you should? Don't set the bar too high, but resolve to lean in a little. Once a day, once a week, find a way to give in the manner your selfish heart wants to resist. Pray. Look for the ways your heart resists prayer. For most of us, it's probably not listening enough in our prayer. So reading scripture, being silent in front of the Eucharist, paying attention to the words of the Mass, even if you've heard them 10,000 times. For others, the problem might be refusing to actually admit to God what's going on. Tell him your real thoughts and feelings, not what you think he wants you to say. Pray more this Lent, yes. Make some of that prayer that you enjoy, but also look for some prayer that stretches your heart for a little more Jesus and a little less you. Fasting. You should give up sin, yes, always. But a fast is supposed to be giving up something good. So find something that isn't sinful, something good that still competes with your love of God, something that fills your heart in the place that God is supposed to be, and give that up in some way. Maybe for all of Lent, maybe with some exceptions, whatever it is. Find a way to make more room for God in your heart instead of that thing. And one way to tell if your penances, your resolutions are working, is to look at the way you talk. For it is in speaking that we are tested. Are your Lenten practices making your words kinder, truer, more helpful? Words said because you actually love the person you're speaking to, bolder if need be. And when our words inevitably cause trouble, don't despair. Thank God for revealing the problem. Be humbled by it. Notice what's wrong in your heart that's giving rise to those words, and then start putting God there instead. Use confession and penance and fasting to root the evil out of your heart. Use prayer and the Eucharist to put God into your heart. Do this sincerely enough and long enough, and it will show, even in your words.